This right here gonna be a cakewalk.
From like 2017 to like 2020, it kind of was like a weird time for games. Games were so boring. What was the great games that released from 2017 to 2020 for you? Of course, you had the battle royale genre, which was like really hype as well. You had Among Us, which was really hype. Red Dead Redemption was 2017. Yeah, Apex, Spider-Man, Last of Us, Breath of the Wild, God of War. But it's like all of those names, we have that level of talent now. There are too many good games both coming out and that is already out, so they need to fix the game faster than they're moving, to be honest. Yeah, this next update that in July, if that update is good, it might be, and their updates are good. I'm just saying, it hasn't been meaningful changes. They apologized, they said they want to course correct, and here we are still dealing with a lot of the garbage that we initially got upset at. It's like they haven't made that meaningful change people were expecting. Games just had to be half good in 2020 and they'll do well. The pandemic made the player base for all games triple. Tekken 7 sold 12 million copies because of the pandemic. I said that and people got very upset at me, but you know how fighting game players are, right? If you say that Tekken 7 only sold 12 million because of the pandemic, basically what you're saying is that Tekken 7 just got lucky. And people don't like to believe that that's true, but sadly it is. Now, this is the start of the pandemic. That's literally February 13th. That's when people were talking about bats being eaten and literally start pandemic right there. Even if you just look at these three right here, 5, 6, 7 million, that is some of the fastest selling copies they ever done. And that's because of lockdown. 12/11/2022, pandemic over. What happens? Tekken doesn't sell another million copies until 442 days later. I made a video about this probably like 3-4 months ago, and the comment section hated it. They hated it. They was like, no, you're wrong. No this, no that. Just look up Assassin's Creed Valhalla sales. They know they'll never hit that numbers again because of the pandemic. Yeah, this is true for everything. Streaming numbers were inflated. Disney Plus, Mandalorian. Who knows how big of a hit Mandalorian would have been without the pandemic? That was a pandemic hit. Twitch became mainstream because of the pandemic. So to sit here and act like Tekken 7 didn't benefit no way whatsoever when we know literally the entertainment genre as a whole benefited. 2 reasons why Tekken 8 can't sell the same as Tekken 7. One, because there's too much competition in terms of other fighting games. Tekken 7 didn't have to compete against a 2XKO, Virtua Fighter 6, with a new GTA game. By the time Tekken 7 came out, GTA was already 4 years old. A Marvel fighting game. That's one point, the competition. But then another thing about Tekken 8, yeah, no pandemic. They invested a lot of money into this game, and they were expecting the same level of growth as Tekken 7, but Tekken 7's growth was inflated. So this game can't reach that inflation and growth. So this game is bound to collapse in on itself, and they won't make their money back. So if the game flops, then what happens to the game, the IP, the devs? We already know that Bandai Namco doesn't consider this game a success. Even if Harada wants to tell you that it is, when you look at Bandai Namco's financial report, this game is not listed as one of the games contributing to the success. And you think, their newest heavy hitting fighting game would be on there if it was. Why would they not include Sparking's on there? So why wouldn't they include this game if it is any type of success? And also, you talk about the scaling up. We also saw that with Tekken 8 as well, where Harada spoke to how big the dev team has gotten from 7 to 8. So big to where the core dev team wasn't even working on to balance it. And those guys were off doing something else. It seems like Tekken 8 is kind of struggling from that success that they experienced in the pandemic in a slower way than others, but they're still experiencing it. Yes, plus Harada said that Tekken 7 was 10% of the cost of Tekken 8, which means things even harder for them right now. Yeah. This is why I try not to go too hard on them, because I understand now. Started from this, release Tekken 8 to where we are now, I learned a lot. So I understand why they try to cut corners here and there when it comes to like recycling skins and stages and stuff. I get it to a certain extent. Fighting games aren't operating on a unlimited budget. Once again, you talk about what the Marvel token dev said. They fully acknowledge that fighting games don't have this kind of budget that we have. They were flexing the budget that they have. The world isn't fair. Money is a real factor. and they're going to try to put out the best product. And I believe in Harada to do that. I believe Harada will try to put out the best product possible, but also they got to make that money, bro. Here's one thing we hope. So Tekken 8, they got to do a lot of stuff from scratch because Unreal Engine 5, right? So you got to rebuild character models from scratch. You got to rebuild like outfits and stages and a lot of this stuff from scratch. In Tekken 9, they will be able to reuse assets, character models, outfits, items, and stuff, and not have to build everything from scratch. I mean, speaking of money,
BTEC King has donated $10 and says, speaking of money.
Yeah, hopefully they reuse a lot of assets for Tekken 9 and just expand on it. Yeah, that's the idea, right? Because you know, when not smart people hear reusing assets, they're like, oh, they're gonna reuse. We're already dealing with enough reusing in Tekken 8, selling characters, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about them having to painstakingly create, you know, Steve Fox's character model, his face, his arms, his body, how it moves. That is something that they had to do from start in Unreal Engine 5. And in Tekken 9, they could just build off of that. Everything that they're doing is very intentional, and they're trying to make the most out of it, balancing and everything. But I think the balancing, they just made a mistake. They tried to make this gameplay that is accessible to literally everyone, but everyone isn't playing. And that ties into the whole idea of the inflation of players that they were experiencing. But also stages as well. Yeah, stages are probably really expensive. Stages are, and this is why I don't think we're going to get a Tekken Force. This stage that we're looking at is probably easily like, what would you put the estimate on this? 400? 500? What would the estimate be on this? If they did a Tekken Force where you walk through like a building type of thing and fight people, those stages would be like $1 million. And that would basically end up being its own game. And nobody wants to pay $5 for stages? Yeah, exactly. Really what we're dealing with here is just every game is expected to have AAA graphics and fidelity, but not every game could do that. I mean, it makes sense why people don't make these kind of games. It makes sense why everyone makes like open world looter shooters, because those type of games you can make a lot of money. This is why everyone try to make hero shooters, because think about it. Would you want to spend $1 million on a hero shooter environment or $1 million on a Tekken Force environment? Everyone's going to take that gamble on hero shooter. Why would you do a Tekken Force? You mean to tell me I can try to be the next Valorant, Rivals, or Overwatch, or I can be a Tekken spin-off game mode? What? No one's going to do that. And that's what players don't realize when they say do Tekken Force, do Tekken Force. It's not that the developers don't do it. It's that, you know how much money you're talking, because you know where I like to start the conversation with when people, because I'm not against Tekken Force, I'm just being realistic. Fighting games are unpopular purely because of their story. That's my opinion. If Tekken had a 60-hour story, long campaign like COD, it would be way more popular. The story needs to be good. I think there's a lot of things fighting games did wrong. I think if you talk about how they clung to arcades, and arcades were super cheap, right? So that's why they clung to arcades. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's how they excluded online. So they clung to arcades, but they made a very rough transition to online. I mean, even today, 2025, people are still talking about better netcode, better online infrastructure, better this. Fighting games are just now starting to get crossplay. They had everyone's attention in arcades, and then they had everyone's attention in the co-op console at-home era. But as soon as things switched to online, they gave it up. The FPS is took over. Call of Duty, Gears, Halo, they took over. The throne was open, just like the throne is open now. Tekken 8 is slipping. The stage could cost $350,000 if you were using Japanese devs, because their salaries are like less than half of US. I sent the DM of breakdown of why I think Tekken stages are at least $350,000. A team of 8 people, 3D artist, concept artist, designer, lighting artist, visual effects artist, coder, technical rigger, earning $60K per year. Plus, Tekken has dynamic level needing unique mechanics or dynamic elements, destructible walls, or interactive components that require additional programming, art, animations, and testing, adding to the cost. Every Tekken stage also requires its own soundscape, ambient sounds, interactive effects, all designed and mixed specifically for that environment. High quality sound engineering can add crazy costs even before software licensing. They add multiple music tracks that need to be recorded and a music producer paid. Yeah, very good breakdown. Very good breakdown. Yes, sir.